The Vietnam War stands as one of the most complex and tragic conflicts of the 20th century, with far-reaching consequences that continue to shape international relations and military strategies today. From its roots in World War II to the atrocities committed on all sides, the war is a multifaceted tapestry of political, social, and human elements that defy easy categorization or understanding. In this extended exploration, we delve deep into the nuanced layers of the Vietnam War, shedding light on lesser-known facts and uncovering the intricacies of a conflict that forever altered the course of history. The Vietnam War, often referred to as the Second Indochina War, emerged from a complex web of historical, geopolitical, and ideological factors. Following the end of World War II, the struggle for independence in Vietnam intensified as colonial powers sought to reassert control over their former territories. The stage was set for a prolonged and bloody conflict that would span nearly 2 decades and claim the lives of millions. Number 5. Roots in World War II. To understand the origins of the Vietnam War, one must look back to the tumultuous years of World War II. In the 1940s, as Japanese forces swept across Southeast Asia, they occupied French Indochina, setting the stage for a collision between colonial powers and indigenous nationalist movements. Amidst the chaos of war, the seeds of Vietnamese resistance were sown, laying the groundwork for the subsequent struggle against foreign domination. The communist-backed Viet Minh, led by Ho Chi Minh, emerged as a formidable force in the fight against Japanese occupation. Supported by allied powers such as the United States, the Soviet Union, and China, the Viet Minh waged a guerrilla campaign against Japanese forces, laying the foundation for their future struggle against French colonial rule. Number 4. Dwight's domino theory. As World War II drew to a close, the specter of communism loomed large on the global stage. With the Soviet Union emerging as a superpower and communist movements gaining ground in Asia, Europe, and beyond, fears of a global communist revolution gripped Western policymakers. It was in this context that President Dwight D. Eisenhower articulated his domino theory, a Cold War doctrine that posited that the fall of one country to communism would trigger a chain reaction of communist victories throughout the region. Vietnam, strategically located in Southeast Asia, became the focal point of Eisenhower's containment strategy. Viewing the country as a crucial battleground in the struggle against communism, the United States committed significant resources to propping up the anti-communist regime in South Vietnam, ultimately leading to direct military intervention in the years to come. Number 3. Initial U.S. restraint. Despite Eisenhower's fervent anti-communism and commitment to containing the spread of communism in Vietnam, the United States initially exercised restraint in its approach to the conflict. War-weary from the recent Korean War, and cognizant of the limitations of direct military intervention, Eisenhower opted for a strategy of covert operations and support for anti-communist factions within Vietnam. However, the limitations of this approach soon became apparent as the situation in Vietnam continued to deteriorate. The rise of the communist insurgency in South Vietnam, coupled with growing Soviet and Chinese support for the Viet Cong, forced the United States to reassess its strategy and contemplate more direct military involvement. Number 2. Intensive aerial bombardment. The turning point in the Vietnam War came with the Gulf of Tonkin incident in 1964, which provided the pretext for large-scale U.S. military intervention in Vietnam. Following the passage of the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, which authorized the use of military force in Southeast Asia, the United States embarked on a massive aerial bombardment campaign against North Vietnam, utilizing the latest technological advancements in aerial warfare, including precision-guided munitions and strategic bombing techniques. The United States unleashed a devastating barrage of airstrikes against North Vietnamese targets. The scale and intensity of the bombing campaign were unprecedented, surpassing even the most intense bombing campaigns of World War II. Number 1. Atrocities on both sides. As the Vietnam War escalated, atrocities were committed by all parties involved, resulting in untold human suffering and loss of life. One of the most notorious incidents was the My Lai massacre, in which U.S. troops massacred hundreds of unarmed Vietnamese civilians, including women, children, and the elderly. The massacre, which occurred in March 1968, shocked the world and exposed the brutality of the war to the international community. Yet the atrocities were not confined to U.S. forces alone. South Korean troops, who were allied with the United States in the conflict, also committed egregious human rights abuses, including massacres and indiscriminate violence against civilians. Similarly, the Viet Cong, the communist guerrilla forces fighting against the South Vietnamese government, employed brutal tactics, including terrorism and intimidation to achieve their objectives. In conclusion, the Vietnam War remains a complex and deeply contentious chapter in modern history, defying easy explanations or resolutions. From its origins in World War II to the atrocities committed on all sides, the war serves as a sobering reminder of the human cost of armed conflict and the enduring legacy of imperialism and colonialism. As we continue to grapple with its legacy, it is essential to remember the lessons learned from this tragic chapter in history and strive to build a more peaceful and just world for future generations.